Esther begged Stabby Paul not to harm him, but her pleading only made the spirit more determined. When the ghost finally closed in, he revealed the boy was actually a spirit himself and had only been teasing him. His mother, the hotel's owner, had often scolded him for letting other ghosts believe they could kill him, but he thrived on the excitement. Out of nowhere, Nathan, Catherine's deceased brother, appeared and announced the arrival of a special guest. Upon hearing this, Catherine immediately ordered the children to tidy up the place and help their uncle locate the least haunted room for the newcomer. At the reception, she caught Abaddon staring at her in a strange way, so she demanded that he leave. He refused, boasting about being the High Prince of Hell, which forced Catherine to shove him into a closet and lock him inside. Meanwhile, the special guest had already arrived, and Catherine greeted him warmly while attempting to hide the hotel's supernatural nature. When he noticed a mirror dripping with blood, she lied, saying it was just a decorative artwork. Esther searched through different rooms, but each one was occupied by spirits. Just as Nathan thought he had found a safe space, a ghost named Jessica lunged at Ben. Luckily, Esther managed to save him by driving Jessica away with dark magic. With news that the room was finally clear, Catherine handed the guest a key, only to discover he was a ghost himself. The visitor, Tony, pulled out a gun and fired at Catherine. Instead of panicking, she simply sighed in irritation, fed up with dealing with foolish spirits. Before Tony could leave, another phantom appeared and riddled him with bullets, leaving him to die again. Stabby Paul then emerged and stabbed Tony repeatedly, which only heightened Catherine's frustration. Later, while cooking, she lamented her inability to live a normal life, complaining that every time things seemed calm, another ghost disrupted everything. The children suggested she could put the spirits to work with chores instead of seeing them as lunatics, but Catherine rejected the idea outright. She wanted no ghosts in her home or hotel, only real guests. Nathan tried reassuring her by saying every inn has its quirks, but she ignored him and stormed out. It turned out Nathan had originally owned the hotel before his death, and Catherine had only taken over afterward. He insisted the ghosts weren't so bad if she took the time to know them, but she decided on a last resort, calling in an exorcist to cleanse the entire building. This angered Nathan deeply, since he himself was a ghost and would be banished along with the others. He begged Catherine to give him just one day to organize the spirits, claiming their conflict was only due to miscommunication. Reluctantly, she granted him the single day. If he failed, she would summon the exorcist. Later in the living room, Esther startled Ben from behind, then tried convincing him to pursue a mysterious and stunning girl named Annabelle. Blushing, Ben quickly became interested, and after Esther told him Annabelle found him cute, he rushed off to approach her. Elsewhere, Nathan gathered all the ghosts for a town hall meeting inside the hotel. Catherine was shocked to learn such a hall even existed. The ghosts immediately jeered at her, demanding she leave since she didn't belong there. Nathan seized the podium from Stabby Paul and took the chance to reintroduce the spirits to his sister. Hoping to let them showcase their talents in running a hotel, he asked each ghost to state their name, how they died, and share one idea for improving the establishment. Angela went first, explaining she died falling from an apple tree, and suggested that if Ben stopped eating fruit, she would no longer scream since it triggered her trauma. Doug followed, claiming he had drowned saving a child in a river, though it was later revealed to be untrue. For hours, different spirits presented their suggestions to reduce scaring human guests away. Impatient, Catherine shoved Nathan aside, doubting his approach. She pulled out written rules for them to follow, but since they couldn't hold papers, she read them aloud. According to her rulebook, the ghosts were only allowed to haunt in the attic, while the rest of the building was off limits. The spirits rejected her rules, rioted against her, and even hurled objects at her. Furious, Catherine attempted to leave, but Jessica ambushed her from behind. Meanwhile, Ben, dressed sharply in an Italian suit, mustered the courage to woo Annabelle after some encouragement from Esther. Annabelle complained about being trapped in the hotel for 90 years, but Ben ignored her grievances and clumsily tried flirting. When Annabelle accidentally touched him, they both felt an overwhelming connection, as though the world had stopped. She told Ben she believed they were soulmates, destined for each other. Esther, confused about why they were moaning without intimacy, was told by Abaddon to ignore it. Later, Nathan apologized to Catherine for the disastrous meeting. Around the same time, Ben asked for permission to let Annabelle possess him so he could experience pleasures beyond this world. Catherine, however, had already made up her mind to bring in an exorcist. Nathan made one last attempt to dissuade her as she scrubbed the bleeding mirror, but it was too late. The exorcist was already knocking at the door. Nathan attempted to stop her from opening the door, but she went ahead anyway. At that moment, the exorcist revealed how the hotel was drowning in darkness. Meanwhile, it turned out Esther had actually set Ben up with Annabelle, hoping he would help her steal treasures from the grave. But Ben had already fallen too deeply in love, and this infuriated both Esther and Annabelle, since their romance was interfering with their plan to get rich. Elsewhere, Jesmeralda carried out her first exorcism, ridding a candle ghost. She then thanked Catherine and her brother for summoning her, but they were puzzled as they had never mentioned the hotel was haunted. Jesmeralda explained that this building had once been an asylum, and before that, a prison. Such grim history had turned the land into a magnet for evil, and in her words, the grounds concealed one of the 6 gateways to hell. Ezekiel soon began acting up again, so Jesmeralda performed an elevation spell on him. Catherine was astonished at the display, and Jesmeralda broke down the supernatural hierarchy. Ghosts can dominate demons, demons can overpower humans, but with the right tools, humans can control ghosts. She then eliminated Ezekiel completely. Nathan forbade Catherine from continuing with the exorcisms, but she reminded him he was no longer in charge and the choice was hers. Using a candle, they tricked the candle ghost, and Jesmeralda seized the chance to banish it to the nether realm. Nathan tried to protect the spirits, but Jesmeralda gradually exiled nearly all of them in the hotel. While this unfolded, Ben and Annabelle shared a spiritual fling. After the mass banishment, Jesmeralda inquired about the lone ghost left behind, Nathan. He overheard this and stormed off to his room, furious and feeling betrayed. Meanwhile, Esther and Abaddon pressured Ben to stick to their deal, unaware Annabelle was secretly listening. Heartbroken by what she heard, that Ben was with her only for her body, she began crying. Though Ben pointed out it was Esther who masterminded everything, Annabelle still felt crushed, having been deceived too many times before. Catherine tried to reason with Nathan, saying everything she was doing was for him, but he had already made his decision. Jesmeralda took this as a cue and sent him to the Netherrealm as well. When Catherine demanded he be returned, Jesmeralda calmly explained the transition was irreversible. Suddenly, the earth trembled. Without Catherine realizing, the ghosts Jesmeralda had purged were part of a ritual to resurrect her demon master, Mordeth, the so-called master of the damned. Moments later, Mordeth emerged from the bleeding mirror in his true form. Meanwhile, Ben and Annabelle's relationship fell apart after a heated quarrel about who was manipulating who. Esther and Abaddon stepped out of their room only to discover the entire hotel had been overtaken by Mordeth's power. Catherine fled in terror, but the demons pursued her relentlessly. Though relieved that her children were safe, the demons resumed their chase, forcing them to barricade themselves inside the living room. A short while later, Jesmeralda burst into the room, badly injured, insisting her master had turned against her. Catherine urged her to focus and explain how they could restore the ghosts, since ghosts had the ability to defeat demons. But before they could finish, Mordeth broke into the room. Jesmeralda abruptly betrayed them once more, swearing allegiance to the demon, yet Mordeth killed her on the spot. Abaddon alone could speak to Mordeth, since he too had once been a prince of hell, but Mordeth struck him down, declaring his title was nothing but old glory. To oppose the demon, Esther used black magic to turn Ben into a conduit, which allowed Catherine to contact Nathan and the other spirits trapped in the Netherrealm. Nathan almost returned but hesitated, wanting to know if his sister was finally willing to accept ghosts remaining in the hotel. In desperation, Catherine agreed, granting them free will within the building. With her approval, all the ghosts surged back into the hotel through Ben as their vessel. Together, their combined strength overwhelmed Mordeth, forcing him back into the bleeding mirror. Catherine shattered it completely, ensuring he could never escape again. Instantly, all traces of demonic influence vanished, restoring balance. Well, balance of a different kind, since ghosts now had free reign in the hotel. Ben and Annabelle made peace and rekindled their love. Stabby Paul swore he would stop stabbing. Catherine welcomed Nathan back as co-owner. And that wrapped up the very first episode of the series. If you want to see part 2 of this recap, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Thanks for watching.